For 3.5 years, I've heard about autonomy. I've heard about autonomy and how important autonomy was, and how Joe Nigro and sheep metal workers are going to steal your autonomy. It's my understanding, if I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me. It's my understanding that the general chairman has to get a contract, has to have it ratified by all his members in that unit, I guess. Am I right to say unit? Division. And then after that, it's a safety issue. I think it goes to the FRA, from what I understand. So, you know what? I think we have to be, if that's true, if that's all true, I think we have to be careful about stepping on each other's toes, too, even though we believe in 30-40. There isn't anybody in this executive board that doesn't believe in 30-40. Hell, we've been trained that from James since the day we walked in here, the importance of 30-40. But are we going to step over bounds, or we're going to start making decisions for other general chairmen? Because that's dangerous. And that ain't what you told me you wanted 3.5 years ago. If I'm doing something wrong, I want to know it. I'm not here to pick sides or anything, because I believe in 30-40 too, like everybody else does. But I also believe in the right of a general chairman to control. He knows his house. He's like our business agents. I don't go in and negotiate 104's contract. They do a good job on their own. They ratify it. They decide if they want that contract. I was under the impression, and I may be wrong, and listen, correct me if I am. I was under the impression that your general chairman had autonomous over that. Now, if I'm wrong, tell me. But what I don't want us to break up fighting between state legislators who have an opinion, who fought gosh darn hard for the last 10 years for 30-40, or any state legislators fighting for us, because 30-40 is a good deal. But based on what I've learned, and I could be wrong, I'm not saying I'm right, I could be wrong, autonomy means that general chairman negotiate the contract, has to get it ratified by the majority of his members, I think, and then are we putting the cart before the horse? Are we all fighting for nothing? I just want to know that. Are we fighting for nothing? I know we believe what you believe me. No one has to tell me what their heart says or what they believe, and I appreciate you fighting for it. What I don't want us to do is let something that hasn't even happened yet destroy us. I don't want to set up walls and barriers. I think state departments are very important to me. Legislative departments are important to me. The things they do every day are important to all of us. I think the general chairman have a right to do what they got to do because they know their areas. But explain to me, just someone can explain to me, why are we getting something that hasn't even been ratified from what I heard? Hasn't even been ratified. I have got the assurance from the FRA that before you even start any kind of a thing, a program, a one-man, whatever they want to call it, they don't even have a plan for it yet. It's just laid out there as a prospective possibility. I understand why an individual who's elected by a certain local would try to protect his men. We all do that. Every one of our locals do that. But I'm just a little confused. Listen, I could have shut my mouth and walked out away and probably made everybody happy. But you're all my members. We're all together in this. Whether we agree or disagree, we're all together. Is it autonomy the issue, or is it, are we going to start deciding each other's contracts? I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea unless you change your system. I'm just being honest with you. I don't want anything tearing us apart. So with that, I'll open the microphones to one first.
Corey McDaniel, Local 324 out of Seattle. A lot of people know how passionate I am about this, this bill, or this proposal. I want to first start off by thanking the Joes and the Johns and all the GC Council. I was very nervous this week, and it was weighing heavily on my mind. We made it, and I appreciate all your hard work. On the way down here, I was reading a book from Eugene Debs, and it stayed in there that Eugene Debs is like you are now, President Nigro. You're organizing all of us and making us one strong union. And what quote in there, he said, I don't want to lead you to the promised land, because if I lead you to the promised land, somebody can lead you back out of there. So when Trumka spoke earlier today, I had tears in my eyes because he hit it out of the park. This proposal gets us involved to a race to the bottom where corporate greed is attacking us again. And I, for one, am tired of it. I want us to band together. The promised land that we asked for to go arm in arm to is safe work for our members, and this proposal makes it unsafe. Where I work, we have PTC, which is positive train control. So if you don't mind, I'll speak a little bit to my sheet metal brothers and to kind of explain what it is. It is a technology that is challenging one of the positions on our train, which is conductor. Well, this technology has been implemented, but it's not working in the territory that I work in. I've been on many of the trains. It's unsafe to work in our communities, and in our industry. So that being said, the proposal is premature because this technology doesn't work in our territory. So until it works and can protect our communities and our rail industry, this is not something that we want. So going back to taking us to the promised land, all of you in here, this is the country, the great country that our sheet metal brothers and sisters have built. This is the country that all of us on the transportation side, we move every day. And it's important that we stop fighting amongst each other, go arm in arm together, and this is an absolute attack on the middle class. We are the backbone of this country, and we're tired of it. So when I thought about this, you can use any one of the transportation vehicles to use this analogy, but I'm going to choose rail because that's where I work. But the GEC and you are driving the train, and if there's anything that challenges that train, and you said earlier that you couldn't go backwards when you were playing with a toy train when you were a kid. Well, I'm tired of going backwards and I'm tired of going down. I don't want to be a part of a race to the bottom. The train that you guys are driving now, we're going back up. When people don't get involved in their union, they constantly ask me, why should I get involved in the union? Why should I get involved in the union? They keep selling us out. Well, at what point do we say, enough is enough, let's get together, let's get arm in arm, and we're going up? So if there's somebody or something that breaks the integrity of our train so we can't go forward and we can't go up, we call that a bad order in our industry. We need to set that bad order out, put our train back together, and start going up. So I ask you, and I'm very passionate about this issue, so I ask all of you to think about that. If you had a technology in the sheet metal industry that has taken your job, wouldn't you want it to be safe for your members before it took away your jobs? That's what we're asking for. That's why we're so passionate for it. It's not safe in our industry yet. Until it is safe in our industry, we want the right to speak out against it. Now, just as you, Mr. Nager, have the fire in the belly to represent your members, I have the fire in my belly to represent my members. And I guarantee you, as soon as we break today, my number one priority is going to do everything I can to protect my members and vote this proposal down. So as soon as we leave here, it's been on my mind all week, I'm going full bore against this proposal, and I'm going to do everything I can to stop it, because I won't be able to go home to my wife and kids and say that I didn't do everything I could to stop this, and it put my members in jeopardy, it puts myself in jeopardy, and puts my communities in jeopardy. So I plead with all of you to get in support of HR 3040. Anybody you know in the rail industry that has a vote, have them vote no. Thank you.
And I don't think there's anybody on this executive board that says we shouldn't push for 3040. Everybody believes the same thing based on what we've learned from our brothers and sisters sitting here. So, but the question I had was a little different. But number 4.
Mike number 4, John Campos, Local 1571, Transportation Division, El Paso, Texas. I work on the BNSF Railroad. Out of El Paso, we run north to Belen, New Mexico, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, freight train service. 16 years on the railroad as a trainman. I am not a certified engineer. I am a certified conductor, second generation. I have many friends that I grew up with who are also involved in union craft, in different industries, of course. And when the petition that the other brother spoke about was circulated on the internet, I was sure to forward the link as well as an accompanying letter to my brothers and sisters, as well as friends and family, explaining a little bit of what we do. I don't know if any of you other railroaders or even sheet metal workers have experienced this with your friends and family. Many people don't know what our industries are about. Many people don't know what our crafts are all about. What is a sheet metal worker? I didn't know you did that on the train, et cetera, et cetera. A good brother of mine, a firefighter, didn't even know, as a railroader's son, that there were less than 5 people on the train anymore. He had no idea that we're down to 2, 1 conductor and 1 engineer. Of course, his first issue with what I was talking about, describing HR 3040, governed fatigue, rest issues, et cetera, what happens if one of us is in an emergent situation. To answer your query directly, Mr. Nigro, the structure of our union, the structure of our constitutional procedures is sacrosanct. You're absolutely correct in terms of general chairperson's positions, general chairperson's autonomies, general chairperson's reflection, responsibility, and work for the benefit, betterment, and interests of their membership. I think what a lot of us who are going to be affected or possibly affected by HR 3040 are taking advantage of this wonderful avenue, not only in this room, but throughout over this week, as we have banded together and strengthened our position as a smart organization, to let those of us who are not directly affected by HR 3040 or have not been, to realize that they are, in fact, going to be directly affected. The friends and family and the brothers and sisters that I have written who were at first surprised that there are only 2 of us on the train are even further surprised by the reality that there could be any kind of movement, in particular the actions of the General Chairperson of General Committee 001, that would even suggest that we compromise or that we lessen our capabilities and lessen our protection as time goes on, regardless of technological advancement, regardless of contracts that the railroads might want to approach SMART or the BLET over. I just wanted to come up here and clarify, sir, that as passionate as many of us are, and believe me, I'm keeping my voice incredibly down, but as passionate as we all are, it is not so much a slandering or an indictment of the general chairperson of 001 or the actions of brothers or sisters who are acting in accordance with the desires of their own general committees, so much as the importance that I let every brother and sister in this room know that this kind of legislation does have a wonderful shot if we are active. To refer to the brother at mic number 2 a few minutes ago, if we sit on our asses, if we do not act, it is impossible to believe that technology and those who would procure its advancement would not prevail. Of course they will prevail. We as a union, we as united brothers and sisters, have the opportunity not only to share our ideas with each other, to educate ourselves, and to educate the general public who do not know and who are directly affected by the perils of any possibility, especially if they're being engendered by representatives of this great union, to pass. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Microphone 5, please.
Robinson, Local 1202, out of the state of Indiana. President Nigro, I'd like to speak to the matter. You had talked about autonomy. Autonomy is something that we do in the Transportation Division hold very dear. However, I'd like to explain to the membership here that this is more than just autonomy. If we allow one-man crews on one railroad, or even one portion of one railroad, it gives them an unfair advantage in that marketplace. That group of BNSF railroads, they can move freight cheaper because they have one less man. And that does not play fair to the UP that runs across the same territory. That doesn't play fair to the railroads at the east that also move that same freight because they have additional cost. And it would be no different than if a business agent in Boston agreed to work for a half of the labor rate As to his neighbor couldn't compete, and all of a sudden a market share would be lost. So this is more than just autonomy. This is more than just safety. And we can talk about 30-40 and the safeness. There is a definite need for 2 members on each train. But I stand here to answer your question about the autonomy. This is more than autonomy. This is an unfair advantage that is given that will hurt the rest of us that are not in that sector.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 6, please.
Dragoo 1503. Here's what's going on here. Democracy is messy. Autonomy's fine when we all agree, when it's convenient. I disagree slightly with my brother. We have to maintain autonomy. In the long run, it will work out from the members. It is this committee that is proposing their unalienable right to decide this amongst themselves. Now, that being said, can we stand up and voice our concerns against it? Absolutely. And you can put me in that camp. But if we start infringing on that autonomy just because we don't like what another person who's not here to defend what he's putting out there because it's inconvenient, that is a dangerous path. And to answer you directly, General President Nigro, you are absolutely 100% correct on every statement you made up there. I am against what is going on with this agreement. I defend 100% the right for that committee to offer the agreement for a vote. Thank you.
Microphone 2, please.
That wind's low again. You remember me today, don't you?
I'll remember you in my dreams tonight. But you know what? You got to stop wearing my wife's nightgown, though. I got to tell you.
What the brother said there at the other microphone, he was correct. That's absolutely correct. We got to protect our autonomy. But let me tell you something. When you have a general committee that's going to make an agreement, if that agreement only affects those people in that general committee, then that's fine. But this is like, it's not like a pebble in a pond. This is like a frickin' meteor hitting the pond. Because once they have that out there, what are the legislators going to think about 30-40 if somebody in our own organization is willing to go out and negotiate a contract contrary to what we're trying to get them to pass? How are we ever going to do that? I mean, there's got to be some sort of, consensus among people when you're going to come out and do something, and it's going to be that's going to go across the system like that. And it's not just going to be the BN. It's going to start there, and it's going to be UP and CNW, NS, all the way across the United States. And next thing you know, we're all going to be at Walmart.
So what we got to do is work exceptionally hard, write a lot of letters, go on the computer, and push 30-40 to bring it to the light. That's why we do it.
Exactly.
That's what we're saying. Microphone 1, please.
Paul McGill, 324 Seattle. I'd just like to remind everyone how we work under the Railway Labor Act, and that the implications of one general committee does ripple out like a meteor in a pond. It does affect the other committees. And every general chairman has a responsibility to remember that he's part of a bigger unit. He does not operate by himself, because those implications in that pond affect a lot of people, not only on his railroad, but on every railroad. Because of the Railway Labor Act, this opens up a Pandora's box that can never be closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 4.
Brother Chairman, thank you. Andres Trujillo, 1138. lest we continue to divide ourselves in this question, which has been going on for a couple of weeks now since concerns over the proposed agreement came out. I want to remind everyone that while business managers, as you use the comparison, have the authority and the freedom to profess contracts in the best interest of their members, they must do so as long as they meet the language and requirements of this Constitution and the policies of the General President and GEC, I believe. Likewise, so that we don't continue this conversation, at least not in a adversarial position between legislative boards and legislative directors and general chairmen, whom are partners in representing our membership, first and foremost and almost always. We have posed the question to the President of the Transportation Division whether that General Committee autonomy also entails drafting an agreement that would go either against or have an adverse effect on the language in the Constitution, 21B, and the policy, and by policy I mean specifically the legislative and regulatory policy professed by the President of the Transportation Division. And I think that while the conversation among the members will not be silenced until and possibly even long after the agreement is voted on, they will have the right to have that conversation and lobby in favor or against the agreement. If we get an answer in that regards which was asked, it will put to rest the doubts and possibly even answer the question you have asked here right now in regards to autonomy and legislative policy and regulatory policy and how it plays together. And that's what I want to offer to your question.
You want?
Andreas, check your email. We actually had that response should have gone out to you this morning. And let me address this issue. The issue of autonomy is near and dear to everyone in the Transportation Division, but there's a history here on what's called crew consist, and I'm going to bore the heck out of our sheet metal guys for a minute or two, but I think this is important to help understand the dialogue. Back in the 1980s, 1982, there was a Staggers Deregulation Act. It did a lot of different things. Ronald Reagan was president. He fired the air traffic controllers, and we actually ended up getting a lot of activity towards reducing the number of crew members on a train. At one point, we had 5, then down to 4, then down to 3, and now we're down to 2. During those early years in the 1980s, when all of this was occurring, it came about with protections in place for employees that were here, reserve board agreements so employees who couldn't work on the railroad were able to stay home and get at least some portion of their income so that they weren't thrown out of work. We had what was called lost brakeman's earnings in a lot of respects, and that is where they take the earnings of that person that's removed from the train and it goes into a fund called a pro fund in some cases, where the individual gets compensated, remaining individuals get compensated. And here today, we still have a number of people on the railroads based on those old agreements that are receiving a 1/3 pay bonus based on those agreements in the 1980s. And that's important because what happened is after the 1980s and those agreements came into play, well, we went through the 90s, they were still sorting out. And then what happened in the early 2000s? The railroads came back to us because you know what they did? They conducted information panel that created what's called recommendations, I would guess you would say, to show that that was no longer necessary and it wasn't needed. And they came back to us and they served notice on us nationally and said, you know those agreements we made back in the 80s? We find now that they're too expensive. And so we want to come back and we want to take that away, and we want to serve notice on you, the international, UTU at that time, and we want those agreements, we want to renegotiate those. And this body, in defending those agreements and in defending our autonomy and in defending our members and their right to what was agreed to by the railroads, went to court. We did that in 2004, and we had to do it again in 2009. In 2004, we won. The judge said, you know what? Crew consist, which is what we're talking about, that's a local issue. It cannot be dealt with on a national basis. In 2009, they did it again in our national negotiations. We went back to court. This time they backed down. We have defended in arbitration and in the courts of our country a general committee's right to negotiate crew consists at the local level and not on a national basis. We do not have the authority under law or Constitution to intrude on that right. Now, having said that, what's being proposed here is very, very important. It has implications that reach as far beyond the jurisdiction of this one committee. We're all very aware of that. And in the first initial response I put out, and then my response to the state legislative directors, to Andres Trujillo, I laid out that although this committee has the right to do this, this organization has a policy of free speech. I am not going to go in and tell any member anywhere in the country that they can't speak out on this proposal. I have received requests from people who are on the other side of the issue who said, well, they don't belong to that committee, they shouldn't be allowed to say anything. And I said, absolutely not. This is a dialogue that is going to go from coast to coast, from north to south, because this does have implications over our entire area of jurisdiction in the railroad industry. It's an important issue. Everybody deserves and gets a right to speak out on it. We are not going to intrude on the autonomy of that general committee, but we are not going to censor our memberships and take away their right to speak out and say what they think about this proposal. When we're not going to take away the right of their members to vote on their agreement. This all comes down to the members. This is the members' right to vote on an agreement. There is no moral foundation for either myself, General President Nigro, or any officer on the stage to step in and tell our members they don't get to vote. We can't do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to allow the members to do this. But we're also going to have a complete dialogue, a robust dialogue, and we're not going to change our policies about supporting 30/40, regulation, legislation, whatever it takes to ensure a safe operation. Single crew operations on a railroad are not safe. Anybody who's ever dozed off at the wheel, anyone who's ever dozed off at the wheel of their car on the way home from work, I've worked midnight shifts, I remember my head nodding. Well, you pull off to the side of the road and you take a nap or you get a cup of coffee. On a train, you just keep on going. And it's unfortunate that anyone in this country would believe that the corporate profits should rise above the safety of our members and of the public that encounter these trains every day. There's no way that a train that's 1.5 miles long can stop in the middle of a small town anywhere in the country and not tie it up. You know what? That hospital might be on the other side of that train, and there's somebody in the ambulance sitting on this side of that train. It's immoral, it should be illegal, and there's no way that we should permit it to happen.
Microphone one.
King, 1172. Brother President, I told you a minute ago I wasn't going to speak no more, but I lied. I have to speak on this issue. I have to speak on this issue. I'm a general chairman of 40 years, and I agree with everything that President Prevovich said. Craft autonomy to us, General Chairman, are sacred. But with that said, I honestly believe the only solution we have is this. 001GO had meetings scheduled around the country to schedule this agreement, to sell this agreement, but they chose to cancel some of them meetings because we were all here. The vote has went out. I think our only chance of beating this and making the problem go away is we leave this hall this afternoon, get on the phone, go home and work our ass off and call every one of the BN members that have a legal right to vote on that agreement and urge them to vote it down, and the problem will go away. I think that's all we have left.
Microphone 3, please.
Thank you, Jay Segmiller, Local 166, and pretty much echo everything that everybody else has said. One thing I want to also add, though, is the general population is supportive of two-man crews. We've done polling in various parts of the country, some of them very conservative parts of the country. The general population do not want trains operated with one-man crews, and we need, when we leave this hall, to get on Facebook, get on our email list, when we're at church, wherever we go, we need to be talking about supporting H.R. 3040, because that's really the solution. We need to pass H.R. 3040. Thank you all.
Microphone 6, please.
John Foote, Lincoln, Nebraska, UTU Smart Transportation Division, Local 627. I am a member of GO 001. I'm also a local chairperson. There's a lot of misinformation about what is and what isn't in this agreement. I just wanted to give the website where everybody can go here and see exactly what is in this agreement and what is not in agreement, and make your own mind up. I fully support 3040. I will write my Congress, and I have written my Congress, and I'll write them again. And there are provisions within this agreement to snap back to that two-man crew. I'm just saying, here's the website, www.smartunion001.org. And like I say, I fully support 3040, and I also fully support the autonomy of general chairman to present these proposals to their members and to be democratically voted upon. So just informed vote is all I'm asking for.
Thank you. Microphone 5, please.
Matt Lebsack, Spokane, Washington, Local 1505, Transportation Division. I was lucky enough, all Spokane Transportation Division members were invited by the BNSF Railroad to come join their town hall meeting at Local 55's Union Hall. And let me tell you, that was an eye-opening 3 hours that I was there. Meeting started at 1800. I left at 2100. It continued on into the night till about midnight 45. I think the biggest eye-opening thing for me at that meeting is these general chairmen were negotiating in active negotiations with the BNSF Railroad for 18 months before they said one word to their membership about it. It broke 3 weeks prior to that meeting in Spokane on social media. That's how they found out. It was through Facebook and Twitter. They didn't find out from their general chairman. They found out through social media. All 7 of those general chairmen should have stepped down and been fired right then and there. There's a couple things in there I just kind of like to highlight that happened in that meeting. There's provisions, as President Transportation Division John Presovich talked about, the prod fund from back in the 80s for the older railroaders. These gentlemen on this general committee, 001, had an opportunity of a 13-month window between June 1st, 2013 to July 31st of 2014 to mark up and work the highest paying job they could for 13 months to increase their earning potential should they lose their job and not be able to hold a position on the railroad to go to a reserve board and collect a percentage of their earnings. They found out 2 weeks before that 13-month window ended that was their avenue to increase their earning potential. That is wrong. They took away their ability to increase their earning potential and provide for their family should something happen. Those general chairmen left there that night. We were scheduled to have an 0800 meeting. They canceled that meeting and did not show up. I was at the Union Hall talking with approximately 25 other BN brothers and sisters and Union Pacific Railroad brothers and sisters that showed up for that 8 o'clock meeting, and that never happened. Those general chairmen left town. That's wrong. Why I was there and everything was winding down that next morning, I don't know. I think he was a vice general chairman. His first name was Scott. He sat up in the front row with the 7 of them, didn't say a word the whole time. Mr. Knutson is the one I think that probably is pushing this thing. I mean, he did about 90% of the talking. He called Steve Smith, who is, I believe, the building manager and runs the apprenticeship program for Local 55. While I was talking to Steve in the Union Hall, this man was afraid to come down to the Union Hall and get his cell phone and charger because of how riled up the membership was. There is no backing, at least in Spokane, by the membership. I have never seen a group of men and women, there were 6 women there, chastise 7 men and just totally eviscerate these men for what they did to them and potentially destroying their livelihoods. I'm just trying to paint a picture for everybody here. The membership is outraged that these men negotiated behind their backs, closed-door secret meetings in Fort Worth, Texas, an agreement for 18 months before they even said a whisper of anything to their membership. Mr. Knutson was asked straight up, why was the membership not polled on what we want to see in our agreement? Because on the railroad and with the UTU, we file our Section 6s. All the locals have an ability to send in to the national what we'd like to see in the new contract, our wish list. They didn't do that. Mr. Knutson said, how do I poll 6,900 people? It's easy. You poll every local chairman of every local. They hold the meeting. Brothers and sisters, what do we want to see? You take that list from the local chairman and then you send that up the ladder to the general chairman. They forego and pass everything that I know as a railroader, that the process we go through under the Railway Labor Act to negotiate fair contracts so I can provide for my wife and daughter, just like everybody else here. I urge everybody, check out 3040, support it. This contract needs to be voted down because it will spread like wildfire from the Seattle to Boston. And I'm an engineer, and I don't want to be running without my brother or sister next to me. I've had some dark nights.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I thank everybody for your time. I'm sorry for being so passionate about it, but
I'll be very sorry.
a lot of my friends could lose their jobs, their homes, their livelihoods. We talked about suicide earlier on in the week. Bad things are going to happen if this passes. I do believe the general committees deserve their autonomy, but as everybody on that board, from San Diego to here, has talked about transparency, this general committee had zero transparency. As far as I'm concerned, all 7 of them should resign. Thank you for your time.
Microphone 2.
Mr. President, Brian Durant, Business Manager, Local 116, Quebec, Canada. As you all well know, in Lac-Mégantic, 47 people died because this train came down, just about wiped out the whole town. We need to support two-man crew. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.